Hi, this is Dan over at the virtualmixproject.com. If everything went well, you're now arrived at this page. And if you didn't, you just type in virtualmixerproject.com in your browser and you will see the Virtual Mix Project page. And I want to explain today how our first control service actually works. So you open up the client, which you can see in this box here, which is highlighted. There is a client and your computer will probably hang for a couple of seconds when you open it. That's because it's computing the shaders, and there's no way for some strange reason to have that process work in the background. It will just get your computer stuck for a couple of seconds. I don't know why, it just happens. And then there is the remote. So this would be the client that I just opened. You see two samples of a girl dancing. There's one on a red background. There's one on a LED screen background, I think. And it's fading between the two. And there is this one, which is the control surface. Now, this looks a little bit off. That's because it was actually built to be operated from your mobile phone. So you have to look at it like this. This is what it looks like on your mobile phone. But because for instruction purposes, I have decided to view it on a desktop, which works fine. So what I'm going to do is put this into separate screens now, so I can show you both the viewer and the client. So these are the two screens that you need to be looking for. The client is called Service 1 Client, and the remote is called Service 1 Remote. I thought that was easy enough names. To get rid of the play button, just press it 2 times. It's there to ensure full screen behavior and if you have it music. And now we want to control the viewer with the remote. And that's fairly easy. If you zoom in a little, it's the best way I can show it, I think. You can see this number over here in the top left. It's 7A86. You have to remember that number and you have to type it in over here on the top left also. 7A86. And then you press the sync button and it will go green if it works. And you can now control the client with your remote. So this would be the girl in front of the LED screen, and this would be the girl in front of the red screen. It's a red screen and a LED screen. So this is the girl in front of the televisions. That's more easy. And this is the one in front of the reds. It's also a television actually, but I'll put in 2 different samples so you can see the difference. This would be a video clip, this too, I think. So this is a video clip by the KLF, which is awesome. And this is She Wants Revenge, Take on the World, which is also awesome. Just making it sure that it actually does something. So we have girls in black and white on the right, and we have the KLF on the left, which is cool. So you can fade between them, you see. And that works through the remote. So we're all set. We can start mixing. So you can switch off the video now and you can start playing with it yourself. Or you can stick around a bit and have me explain how it all works. Now, first let us start with the basics of mixing. If you have music, and I do have music, I have the unparalleled, awesome NSB radio here, and I have the video. And if you put on music, it's very funny because it always starts to look like it was meant. Like the music was meant with the video. This is awesome. I'm already there. So what we can do now is we can top. We can tap along with the beat, which is about 120, and then you can put in the auto fade, which you do by long pressing the top button, and it will start blinking red with the beat. And if I put the mix mode on hard, you'll see it switch. It's a bit fast if you ask me, but it works. It switches the two videos on the beat, which is what you want, of course. So, just to be audible, I put it softly. I don't really know how loud I am, so I hope this is okay. I won't be fucking with it. Anyway, so this is the basis of mixing. It's already auto mixing. I'm going to take you to the top drop down, which is the mix type drop down. I'll put the music off because it's very annoying, I think. Maybe it's soft enough, but I can't hear it. So this would be the mixer drop down. It has several mix styles or mix modes, as we call them, that have different mixes. So this is the normal mix. This is an A-B mix. It goes from A on the left to B and back again. It might not be the most clear sample, so I'm just going to change that real quick. This is a very short one, which is handy, and this is a very short one, I think. Yeah, these are very easy. So this would be very easy to discern the difference. So I have one sample. It's from Poe Kinachi, Life and Strife, and there's a thing that I made with Trapcode Particular on the right, and it's fading between those two at 97 BPM. And this would be a normal mix. Normal mixing is mixing from left to right, fading it over, where the middle is only 50% each, which is not a full at full light. It's a different, you have to toy with it to see what I mean exactly and what you have out of it, but the normal mix is actually not the best of mixes. So next there's the hard mix. The hard mix is just switching from A to B. You see it cut in the middle. Tuck, 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 tuck. Then we have the num mix. Num mix is delivered from, is taken from the MX50. It had a num mix. It's called a non-adaptive mix, and it's the wrong name because actually it is adaptive. It's brighter. It's a brighter way of mixing than mixing normally. If you see the difference, so this would be normal mixing. This would be num mixing. It's more bright. It's more pronounced. Then there is FUM mixing. FUM mixing is even more pronounced, where num mixing tries to keep the mix as bright over the complete mix. FUM mixing actually allows the mix to be more bright than both the samples would warrant. So FUM mixing would be the brightest mix variant of all, and it's very handy if you have a dark blend mode like darken or soft light or anything like that. And we're going to see the differences between that in a bit. This would be the non-dark mix, and in non-dark mixing, something I came up with myself, you see that none of the samples actually disappear. So what you have with non-dark mixing, both samples are never reduced to a zero Pacotille. And it is very handy if you have darkening mix modes like soft light and darkening and stuff like that. You have to toy around with it. Sometimes it's a real lifesaver. Then there is left, which shows you the left channel. Then there is right, which shows you the right channel. And there is the center, which shows you the center channel. And there is a boom mix, which just adds both channels on top of each other and doesn't do anything. You see it's not actually mixing, it's booming. Center is not actually mixing. Left is just showing left, even though my tab B controller is on. And right will show me right, even though my tab B controller is on. So for this, I'm going to put it on the NAM mix for now to show you the blend modes. Blend modes you find in Photoshop or similar. I don't know if it's readable on the screen, but you have to take my word for it. So these are stuff like add, subtract, multiply, darken, color burn, linear burn, lighten, etc., etc. You know these probably from After Effects or Photoshop. So I'm going to just tip through them real quick just to show them what the possibilities are. So this would be add, this would be subtract, which negates the image if you see. It subtracts, gets negative values, which makes negative imagery. We have multiply, which really can do with a non-dark mix mode, you see, there you go. Multiply, darken, of course. Well, the darken is very dark here. There is color burn, which also overblast. I'm just letting it all overblast. I didn't build in limitations because I really like these kinds of glitches. This would be color burn. This would be linear burn. This is the lighten, simple lighten. It's almost the same. This is screen. Screen and lighten are almost the same, but not quite. And sometimes you have real big differences between the two. So keep on testing with that. This is the color burn, which burns the color back into the image, which in this case makes these nice patterns where the values go negate themselves. There's a linear dodge, which is very bright indeed. There's the overlay, which I always like because it's always like a nice and warm coloring. Soft lights, hard lights, vivid lights, which also burns the image. Linear lights, also kind of overlay. It's a very beautiful. Pin light, especially in the fun mode, has a very dynamic thing to it. This would be the difference. You can see the difference in the middle. And maybe I should just boom it so you can actually see the difference. And finally, the exclusion, which in this case is not very interesting. It's kind of grayish. So I'm going to put them once without mixing. This is just booming it. See the different styles of blending that you have available. You can also do this with music. You get something like this. Put it on the center, put it on there you have it. It's already kind of mixing. I don't know. Something like this. So these are the blend modes. Now we have set them. I'll go back to the add and to normal because we are going to take a look at the. I'll just long press the tab and then it goes up. We're going to have a look at the effects. I have two effect banks here on the left and on the right. I can select an effect and let's do brightness just for starters. I can select an effect and then with some effects you can actually control the amount the effect has, the amount of effect the effect has. I like that sentence. So this is brightness, going to completely white into dark. I didn't include black. I just included dark because black is stupid. There's contrast, which basically does the same thing. No contrast. Lots of contrast. You can toy around with it. You can combine them, of course. So these are both. And there's the Luma key, which is nice because you can key the other image through it. See? Now it's kind of a the shape is hollowed out, and you have the other, and you can put a contrast on here if you like as well. Oh, that's a little. Oh, that's a colorize. Sorry, I meant the contrast. Yeah, there you go. So there's a lot of contrast here. If you don't want those edges, you can try and fade them out. No, doesn't work. Oh, there you go. Oh, that's interesting. Ooh. I don't. You play with it. So you have a lot of effects. I'll just go around them briefly. I need to put them off first, and then I'll just cycle through them to see what we got. You have to play with it. It works on footage differently. It's one big toy box. Anyway, so this put them empty. Put it on 50. There's no reset button. Maybe I should add one. I don't know. Here we go. So this is empty, there's no effect here. This would be -1. There are 5 negatives. There's -2, -3, -4, which is a nice. This is a photo negative, which does only negates the colors and not the hue, which is interesting, I think. And there's -5, which is a reddish one. There's black and white, which does black and white. Red, green, blue, yellow, turquoise, purple, sepia. There's the Luma key we saw earlier. There's the green key, which shouldn't really work on this one, but it actually does a bit. But it's made for a green key. There's paint, which does this nice paint-like effect on here. Doesn't really work on this footage, but still. There's colorize, which was built for the V4, and I don't know what it actually does, but I recreated it anyway. There's the brightness we saw already, the contrast we saw already, the saturation. which saturates the image from black and white to a lot of color. There is hue, which cycles through the color space. And there's black edge, which I'm still working on, but it's basically what it says. It does black edge and combines well with the Luma key. But it's an acquired taste, I think. So those are the effects. You can stack 4 on top of each other on each channel. So that's a lot of room to toy with. Well, finally we have the black transformer. Just make the screen black, and we have the white transformer. I took it from the V4, and I just put it in there. I thought it was nice. Maybe you should add more buttons that you can switch to the other channel or something. Nope. Okay. Apparently it can get stuck. I have it. That's the first time I see it. Report it if you see it. So that's the first screen we have. Now, and I was telling this, as I was telling, this is actually meant for a mobile phone, the controller. So the other screens are hidden here under the button with the little arrows on it, and there. So apart from the mixer that we just talked about, we have a file server or file browser, and we have a sequencer. Now, the sequencer I will touch very briefly at the end of this video because it's a very complicated thing and I should do a different video on it. And the file browser, of course, is very important, but it's also a very simple thing. What this does, it loads a set of publicly available images, which is to say it needs to be on a web server somewhere with anonymous access enabled. And if you have that, you can just you can load them in, which will go automatically, and then you can switch them by pressing on them. So you see them light up, and you see them switch here. This would be the trailer for SimCity 2. This is Anna from Elsa. No, this is Elsa actually from Frozen. And you can just switch through it. Interesting is that if you press again on the video, it will jump randomly through your video, which might be a nice effect. There's a play button here that does nothing. I'm still working on that. And there is a, you can slow the video down over here, and you can speed them up. And you can slow it down again, and you can speed them up. That's it. And it's interesting, it's very handy of course. I'm still working on more controls for the videos, bear with me. I like your input in that also. But for now that's basically what it does. Also there is a little change button over here that lets you select a different set of videos. What you're looking at is the awesome list. And I can, for instance, take my dancing list. Now what you see here is a lot of code. Don't be alarmed, it's not scary. If you put on a code editor and it will show all kinds of code if I do this. So I need to be a little bit more careful with that. There we go. So this is just a list. It's compiled or it's I don't know flattened down. But this is just a list of URLs. It's not very complicated. It's just an array in JavaScript of URLs that you can insert. That's it. Now, you can look at this, you can try it, you can put in your own stuff with it. Should all work. But very important, I need you to not only put in MP4s in the directory where you want to have all your stuff. I'm now feeding into the line B, you see it going here. So very important is you don't have to put in your MP4s. You have to put in your thumbnails too. It assumes that the thumbnail has the same name as your movie, only with JPEG instead of MP4. If you don't do that, you will have an empty image, but it would still work. Anyway, so that's it. You can just select. I have now my dancers here, so I put in the dancing girl, and I put in, I don't know, dragons, I think. Dragons? Oh, this is games. Anyway, I'll put in this one. No, that's boring. I'll put in this one. Jump. And I'll start tapping go. There we go. I'll put in some music. go. And you have a remix going. Now start to add some effects. Yeah, there you go. You can expand this to have more mixers, more modules, more stuff that you like, but this is the basic mixer that we have built for you. And we're now looking at ways to make it more dynamic, add more control. We have MIDI control already, we have gamepad controls. It's not implemented into this mixer, we have other demos that do that. But this mixer is just A/B mixing with effects, and that's what you're seeing right now. Looking at the, there you go. Getting a little annoyed by this, so there we go. I don't know, something like that. Okay, finally, I have a sequencer that I wanted to show you. So let's just put the music off a little. And let's go to the sequence. I'll take the Frozen sample again because it's a fine example. I'm not sure if this will work. Yeah, this actually works. Okay, so there we go. Boom, boom. Frozen, G doesn't need the negative. What we're doing here is, there we go. So. The sequencer, what it actually does. This is Frozen. If I press a button, you see the sequencer walking. These would be moments in time. These would be your beats, if you will. And this would be your banks. You can have 8 banks, each with 8 beats, summoning in 64 beats or 64 moments that you can trigger a certain point in time in the movie. What do I mean with it? If I would press this button here on top, every 8 beats it will sync back to that moment where she loses the glove, if you see what I mean. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this works on the beat, so that's interesting. Done. Yeah, there's no beat in the music now. It's sad, but another one. Quick. See that you have this edits that we did on the beat in real time. I wasn't actually talking about what I was doing. But what I did, I set a marker at a certain time code, and the time code is triggered on a number of beats. That's the best explanation I can give, but you have to look at what you see happen. This way you can do little montages into the system. She'll go into a staircase. And what I always do as an explanation is showing that it can be in the scene, can be set to run indefinitely. Okay, watch this. So here's the staircase, he steps on it, and this I want to have it run indefinitely. So I'll just put in not this one. This is an opening shot. Start walking. There we go. And let's put this off for a bit. I want this shot, and I want this shot. This. And I could combine the two by switching yellow. I need to switch it on. Do we see what's going on here? I'm already starting to play with it immediately, but what it does is it lets you set cue points in your video, and it will then trigger those cue points in the sequence on a 10-beat control. There's also the way you can actually, this is a little early, then you can speak a little bit. Go. Right. Maybe it's even more clear if I just clear this. Okay, let's just put it on hold. Let's do this. Yeah, there's a little play thing. There we go. So, I have only this one. If I reach out and play this, it's a play. See? It's not a very fine thing, but it's not a very fine example, but you get the drift, I think. This you can combine with the other suit sample and this one. Add some effects. And there you have it, another mix with a sequence in it. I hope it's a bit clear what I did here. It's very hard to explain. I don't know exactly why. Maybe you should write it out or something. But I hope you have an idea how the sequence will work, what you can do with it. So these are the cue points. Here you can skip through the videos, fast forward, play pause, stuff like that. You can switch it off here. Again, long presses are used to go into edit mode. You can switch off your banks and switch on your banks, and it will start cycling through it. Maybe it's something I have to add another video to, but for now I hope it's clear what the possibilities really are. And it will now switch back, I hope.
Yeah, big up Delta.
There we go.
In the chat room, up in about 40 minutes. The Total Niceness Show.
So that's basically it. That's the first surface control of the virtual mixer. I hope